Alright, what's going on YouTube? We're going to be picking up right where we left off in the last recording or last video that you guys see. What's going on is Lost Fantasy, the guy who likes to get lost in the fantasy world of anime, video games, manga, manga, and even his own imagination. Let's get this started with the Reincarnation Assassin guy. So, let's continue the story. I had to end the last one, but let's start with this one, right where we left off.
Families that have already arrived at the ceremony.
Oh yeah, before we start, we are arriving at the ceremony, of course, as you can see. And little recap. He grew up. He was training in the Ring of Fire. We found out he had some type of cold infusion disease in his body that's probably going to kill him sometime in the future. He's been developing the Ring of Fire up to the Ring of Fire 2, and if he goes further, it may cure it. Caught up? You been paying attention? Okay.
Echo throughout the hall as they chat and engage in meaningless conversation. The gossiping continues as they call out to other families and their sons. Just when there is talk about Sylvia and her son, it is seen that Sylvia walks into the hall with Leon holding her hand.
Look at her.
The chatter in the hall rises as they call Sylvia an outcast. The cold faces of the families in the hall glare upon Sylvia as she walks in.
No, it ain't even about being an outcast. I guarantee you 90% of the women in that ballroom right now is jealous of how fine she is. And I'm going to put my life on that. I swear to God. Let's go back. Look how plain this motherfucker is on the right. Brown hair, green eyes. Don't got no type of glare, no glow on her. You just hating already. You are already ugly to begin with. That's just making you uglier. And plain Jane over on the left here just want to be smug and everything when she's not even a 5. Honestly, if we're gonna be honest with you. But we get over to Sylvia here.
Cold faces of the families in the hall glare upon Sylvia as she walks in and observes the cutting eyes of the families that stand before her. As Leon walks along.
Look at how fine she is. She has a glow, man. All y'all jealous in there, bro. Nah, I couldn't be no MC in these stories, bro. I'll tell everybody how.
Along with his mother into the hall, the chatter continues, and they point out at Leon, gossiping about his height and the rumors of him being sick being true. There is refusal and denial in the words that cut through Sylvia's skin.
Look at how she's still glowing even in the face of all this disparity. That's a woman right there. I promise you, dignified and everything.
Questioning why the outcast's son is participating in the judgment ceremony. The people express their hatred as they exclaim that they did not want to see the two, for it drops the ceremony's standards. Leon notices the harsh words of the families from the direct line. He questions if there are some kinds of circumstances behind the words, but he immediately gets a hold of himself. He expresses that he does not care if they are talking ill of him. However, he is startled to hear the words of people calling his mother, Sylvia, shameless. Hardening his facial expressions, Leon expresses anger and is infuriated at the harsh words being thrown at his mother. He quickly snaps back into reality when Sylvia calls for him. She tells him that it's okay and asks him to just look at his mom. Our hero bravely accepts and moves forward with his mother, and just then, a voice yells out to make it known that the patriarch is entering. He contemplates the long time since he has seen his grandfather, as our hero gazes upon the shiny attire that the patriarch holds as he walks up to his throne. The powerful presence of the patriarch is known as he sits on the throne and the announcer yells out his name. Glenn acknowledges that everyone has arrived at the ceremony, and Leon glares upon what is to happen next. The patriarch's hand swishes, and a giant sword appears before the people in the hall. Leon is taken aback in nervousness as he questions if it is the sword of judgment. And then, the heavy voice of the patriarch calls out for the judgment ceremony to begin. Glenn Zycart has made the judgment sword appear in front of the audience for the judgment ceremony, which our hero explains that upon placing one's hand on the stone sword, the sword determines the mana ability that they possess. Glenn glances upon the audience when the announcer calls for the name of Burn Zycart to begin the ceremony. Burn sits up enthusiastically at his call to be acknowledged. Leon observes Burn approach the stone sword, and he explains that from the age of 4, the skull of the child begins to close up, and from then on, the child's mana ability remains stagnant.
I guarantee you that's a boot-licking ass kid right there. The kid that's been handed everything in these stories, and he's entitled. He gonna get his ass handed to him in the future. He gonna be real upset looking to beat Leon. I guarantee. I'm calling that shit right now.
And shining energy flares up around the hall atmosphere as Burn holds his hand upon the stone sword. Leon adds that this place is where the judgment ceremony takes place to determine the kid's mana ability. Green energy illuminates the hall, and applause follows as the audience discusses and judges the light that is being emitted. They conclude it to be the wind ability of great quality and applaud the boy. The patriarch also commends the great ability, commenting it to be an attribute well suited for a swordsman and encouraging the child to channel the wind forth. Next up, a boy from the vassal family of Runan is announced to come forward, and he sits up to acknowledge his call. Observing and judging the different patterns and interactions, Leon concludes and explains that how far the light travels indicates the mana's purity, while the mana's attribute is determined by the sword's tip. He elaborates that this is how the Zygarde family determines their talent. He also observes the cheering and enthusiasm among the families as they applaud Runon for his ability, commending his family name and comparing him with Burin. Leon notices that these people value their talent just as much as they value their life. And so, he guesses that he won't be able to display good results. Although the Ring of Fire is on the 2-star levels, his mana circuits still have a lot of cold on them. But truth be told, such things don't really matter to our boy. Just in time, the announcer lastly calls for our hero, and he feels the intense glares and sights of disgust that the families
Man,
portray.
screw all of y'all, bro. Look at these. This is a 5-year-old kid, bro. A 5-year-old kid. He could probably beat all of y'all right now. Look at these. Look at their faces, bro. Oh, y'all. Look at her. You know what? Let me keep my mouth shut.
The patriarch joins this sentiment, and Leon is called forward. Sylvia smiles and calls for her son to proceed, and Leon obeys. He knows that he does not anticipate extraordinary results. He just needs to find a mana attribute that best suits this body. Sylvia guides Leon as she tells him to do the same as the other kids, and Leon listens. He steps forward and sighs nervously, before placing his palm on the stone sword. Surprisingly, a loud golden light is emitted through the stone sword, and our hero's eyes widen at this sight. He wonders what this light represents. The light blinds his vision, and he instead sees a sight of a man standing in front of him with demonic creatures observing from the side. He questions what all of this means. Demonic creatures glare viciously over the man standing in front of them, and Leon sits behind for cover as he witnesses this strange phenomenon.
Okay.
He wonders who the man is that stands in front of him, and before he could muster another thought, the man holds up a shiny sword that glows brightly illuminates the sky. The man swings the sword with full force as he grips the handle firmly, and the sword strikes through the demonic creatures that approach him while wailing.
Yeah, nigga, you
a
the
loud
final.
blast follows right after,
the final,
and Leon snaps back
final
into reality
protagonist
to
or something?
acknowledge the task at hand, the stone sword. Just as he glances over at the sword, he is taken aback to find out that the light that emitted has not even made it to the halfway mark. Laughter and hysteria follow right after as the families taunt Leon for his light reaching such a low point, not to mention that it doesn't even have a color. The patriarch remains silent, observing the unfortunate outcome of his grandson's ability. Sylvia approaches Leon to comfort her son, and reassure him that he has done his best. But the harsh words of the families cut like blades as they walk through the shame. They question if Leon is truly a descendant of the Zygarde family and taunt him, suggesting that he might have only inherited the red eyes and blonde hair. The patriarch observes the humiliating commotion and calls out for the laughter and hysteria to stop. Naturally, the people immediately quiet down in fear of the patriarch's heavy voice. He calls off the ceremony and asks the families to return. One by one, all the families leave with their capable children, feeling proud. And shortly after, everyone leaves as the doors close shut behind them. Glenn sits on his throne in disappointment beside the stone sword, towering high in the hall. He calls for his warrant, mentioning that it can't be helped for his grandson. He dwells in regret over the incident, when suddenly, the golden light shines and illuminates the hall once again. His eyes widen at the unforeseen sight. The golden light flares and blazes through the hall, forcing the patriarch out of his throne to acknowledge the might of the light emitted from the stone sword. He recognizes this golden light. It's the signature aura of the Zygarde family's first patriarch, which displayed transcendental fire power that could melt even the flames of the demonic realm.
Okay.
Gazing upon the book to find enlightenment, Glenn, the patriarch, elaborates on the golden mana and golden flames, mentioning it to be a one-time occurrence throughout the history of the Zygarde. He reads of the mana of dense golden light, which is blindingly beautiful and radiantly shiny. This is when the realization dawns upon him, and he notices the golden flame-like light emitting from the stone sword to be the golden flame aura. His eyes widen at the shocking sight. At this point, all he could do was stand there in a daze, nothing more and nothing less. Abruptly switching settings, we see our hero grow twofold since the last time we saw him, once again gazing upon the message window to take a glance at his stats. He reaches out his finger at the screen, wondering if it is time for him to reach the 3-star Ring of Fire already. Narrating over the scene, he tells us that 7 years have already passed since the judgment ceremony, and he has now turned 12 years old. He explains that with consistent training, he is now at the doorstep of reaching the 3 fire rings. His tolerance for water attributes has also risen to being 2 stars, so the coldness in his body has disappeared, improving since it first started, but still rendering our hero unable to move. Moving forward in the present, Leon plans to begin training soon, when suddenly Sylvia's voice calls at him, and she approaches him to ask why he is not ready for the occasion yet. She asks him to leave quickly before they get late. Leon obediently agrees with his mom, and contemplates the fact that the second judgment ceremony has come to face him once again. He annoyingly exclaims that
Oh,
he
that's
will
the
have to
second
see
one.
those bastards from the direct line of families.
Yeah.
The concept of time in this universe really is twisted, because we are once again brought back to the Judgment Ceremony Hall. The voice of the announcer commends the last family competitor and calls for the Judgment Ceremony's end. Leon wonders if it is because it's the Judgment Ceremony of the indirect bloodlines today that the ceremony has ended earlier than expected. This is also when the Patriarch calls for his name. And acknowledging the Patriarch, Leon addresses his call. Glenn confronts Leon for not responding to the basic training orders that he has been receiving for the last month, but our hero is confused and dazed at the sudden confrontation. He does not know what the Patriarch is talking about. Just then, Sylvia walks in to address the concern, pleading that Leon still has a lot of cold energy left in his body for him to endure training. She exclaims that he is different from other children. Leon, on the other hand, is taken aback at the fact that his mother knew of this, but not him. Despite Sylvia's desperate attempts, the Patriarch coldly denies to entertain any such thoughts, emphasizing that this is the Zygarde's land, and there are no exceptions for the one named in the Zygarde family. He expresses that if one cannot walk, they must crawl in order to train. Sylvia continues her desperate attempt, and her voice shatters down as she pleads the Patriarch for a bit more time. But once again, the Patriarch does not like to play around. He confronts and questions her if she will leave the family once again with the child. She is startled and forced to stand in a daze as the Patriarch enforces that this is the Zygarde land, and she must live according to their ways. He warns her that if she does not wish to comply, she is free to leave right this moment. Falling into deep despair and regret, she recalls all of her past mistakes. All the while, she hears the harsh words of the people, taunting her and calling her names, claiming that she will run away again. But this time, she won't have any more energy cores to destroy. The words cut through her skin, and she is shattered when the people shame her for being from the direct bloodline. Observing his mother's expressions, Leon understands why she gets treated so harshly. It is because she had abandoned the family once before. He explains that Sylvia has had traces of learning martial arts, but no mana energy. He tells us that after breaking her own mana circuits and energy core, she had left to marry his father, who had died while she was still pregnant, leaving her no choice but to return to her family. Leon understands that a member of the direct lineage that had left on her own and came back crawling would be treated poorly. However, he steps up in front of the Patriarch, making his emotions of anger clear. Now, he is her son, and he cannot watch her mother get treated so harshly. Looks like a confrontation is imminent, but will our hero's grandfather actually show him mercy for standing up to his mother? In spirit and determination to protect and shield his guardian, Leon walks up the hall to confront the Patriarch, while Sylvia desperately calls for him to stop this madness. She yells that she will fix everything once again. Denying his mother's wish, Leon walks up in front of the Patriarch and sheds light on the matter. He expresses that, as the Patriarch has ordered, he will begin his training next month. Seeing the bravery and determination of our hero, the current Martial Hall Master asks if he was not made aware of this training lease. He expresses that even if he wasn't, he should not pursue the training with his current condition as he is still sick. He presses that Leon should give it up. The show of bravery does not end here, as Leon is persistent and tells the Martial Hall Master that it is okay, and he wants to live up to the Zygarde name. Upon hearing this news, Glenn, the Patriarch, viciously glares at Leon for claiming such a difficult feat, and he questions if Leon understands the weight those words carry. The intense pressure of the Patriarch's aura courses through Leon's body, and he feels the immense force of the Patriarch's ability. He is taken aback and startled, as is apparent by a small spatter of blood that drops on the floor. Leon's eyes widen as he firmly tightens his fist. He concerns and points out that just the Patriarch's glare can do so much, elaborating that the feeling is as if his heart is being crushed by the immense force of the aura. He concludes that the Patriarch is much stronger than Robert, and he asks himself if this is the true power of the King of Annihilation. Helen and Sylvia rush to his aid, and they comfort the distressed hero as the Martial Hall Master joins them. He encourages the Patriarch to calm down, exclaiming that Leon is just a child. But this does not stop the Patriarch's deathly glare and aura. Instead, it intensifies, and both Sylvia and the Martial Hall Master stand down immediately in nervousness. Sylvia cannot see her son being pressed on like this, and she immediately hugs him to protect him while screaming for her father to stop, pleading that Leon is not in the condition to train so intensely with his current state. Observing and witnessing this intense situation, our hero deepens into thought as he narrates that he was an assassin in his past, someone who lived in the shadows. And reminiscing about his past life, he continues to tell that he was always closer to death than life, and he never stepped out of darkness. Feeling a push from behind, Leon exclaims and addresses his new self. He will no longer do the same. He will no longer hide in the darkness.
There you go.
Our young hero meets the eye of his former self in his past, pushing and encouraging him to move forward. Young Leon gazes upon his past self, exclaiming that he will no longer live as the assassin. He grits his teeth and flares up in anger. And moving forward at the Patriarch, he continues to make a point that he will now live as Leon Zygarde and will bring back Sylvia her original position in the family. Yelling at the Patriarch, Leon confronts him as he tells him that he was raised in a separate building of the residence, and he does not know how high in the societal ranks the Zygarde family is, so he suggests that he would like to learn that through training. Sweat trickles down his face, but his intentions are pure and strong. He recalls the joyful times and happy instances he experienced with Sylvia and Helen, determined that he will protect her and make sure to regain the smiles and joy of all the people that are precious to him. Glenn questions if the young boy wishes to judge the Zygarde family's standards through training, and gathering up all the strength he has left, Leon stutters and shakingly tells that he does not have any other choice. Breathing heavily and attempting to catch his breath, Leon stands before the Patriarch as he tells him that he will need to have the instructor prepare accordingly, as not to disappoint him. Just hearing these words, Leon calmly lets go and slowly falls to the ground with Sylvia and Helen rushing to his aid. Fallen on the ground, as our hero slowly loses consciousness, he contemplates that in his past life he was an assassin, but now he is someone that has learned a legend of the continent, the Fire's Ring. And so he concludes that by utilizing both these abilities, becoming a prominent member of this family is not impossible for him. Before finally letting go and submitting to the weight of fatigue catching up to him, he tightens his fist and exclaims that he'll show them all how strong he'll become. A change of setting now takes us to the training grounds where swords clank with each other as the children train and spar with each other while an instructor observes their moves. We are then introduced to the intermediate martial hall master, Karin Zygarde, who questions the claim that the boy was too weak to even properly move. A nervous messenger reports to the martial hall master as he elaborates that many maids have overheard the conversations between the saint and the Patriarch, and it is definite that the boy is suffering from a serious illness. Karin deepens in thought as he recalls that the boy's body was definitely in a bad condition when he saw him earlier today in the judgment ceremony, and all the other times he's seen him, but he wonders how the child was able to withstand his father's aura. Concluding his contemplation, he recalls that Sylvia was known to be more talented than anyone else. Following his deep thinking,
and that's exactly why that they hate her. It got nothing to do with it. It probably has something to do with the position of the family, not a direct bloodline and all that other nonsense. But I guarantee you it is because that she was more talented than them and she had no mana, no aura. It's always some hating-ass people in these stories. It's so irritating, I swear to God.
He calls the messenger to place a maid in their building and to do so as quickly as possible. The man obeys and agrees to do so. Our hero is seen sprinting over grassy fields as Sylvia chases him down, pleading that he does not push himself. He is determined as he runs faster and faster, while Karin's voice still echoes, and he exclaims, asking the messenger to have the planted maid report everything that happens there. Chanting the name of the respected Patriarch, the Secretariat guards salute and make way for him as he walks down his path into the annex. A mysterious man with long red hair and pointy ears lies comfortably on a couch, his face hidden by a hat. The Patriarch approaches the man and addresses him as Lemmer, asking him to stop pretending to be asleep and to get up. Lemmer sits up immediately at this call and commends that the Patriarch really is amazing. This is when we are introduced to the brilliant sword, Lemmer Dias. He elaborates that the Patriarch is the only one his sleeping techniques don't work on. Glenn expresses concern that Lemmer, as the head instructor, is wasting his time on such nonsense while all the other instructors are working hard. Lemmer answers this concern by playfully telling him that they are only following his orders and are working with their bodies, while he works with his head. Annoyed, the Patriarch exclaims that Lemmer has not matured even after 50 years, but Lemmer laughs it off, stating that people don't really change, and besides, he is an elf anyway. Observing the Patriarch's concerned look, he asks if he is here to talk about his grandson too, and he adds that Sylvia had come too. This surprises the Patriarch, and he explains that she asked him to make sure that Leon does not get hurt. Lemmer stands up to face the Patriarch as he elaborates that if he is here to ask him the same, he is wasting his time. He elaborates that Glenn himself had expressed that he won't interfere in the 5th training hall. Following this rant, Lemmer presses with a heavy tone that he won't make any exceptions for his grandson either, and the Patriarch surprisingly agrees to this, which shakes up Lemmer, who expected a different response. Glenn stands firm as he asks Lemmer not to lessen the intensity of the training, stating that he does not want any weaklings. Taken aback, Lemmer gasps and covers his mouth to express the sheer shock that the Patriarch has put him through just as the realization dawns upon him. He bursts out in awe and flutters, stating that the Patriarch must love his grandson very much and is projecting that love onto him, which he could not give to Sylvia.
That's probably what it is.
This angers and infuriates Glenn, and he exclaims that if he was not his veteran friend, his head would be rolling off the floor. Adding on, Glenn asks Lemmer not to go easy and to fail all those who are unworthy so that only the worthy ones can receive his training. Lemmer agrees with this claim and expresses that he will do as he wishes. Concluding their conversation, the Patriarch asks for his leave and steps away as Lemmer enthusiastically sees him off. After the patriarch has left, Lemur dwells and wonders what Leon is like as he stands across his table and thinks of different training regimes. The message window appears once again to showcase our hero's now updated abilities and
3-star.
stats, highlighting that he has now achieved the 3rd ring of fire.
Okay.
Our hero is a sight for sore eyes, and we see him once again as he interacts with the message window. He smiles to contemplate his achievement and expresses that the 3-star rings really do feel different. He explains that his sensitivity has increased, and his mind feels a lot clearer. Recalling where we left off, he sees Sylvia helping him up as she scolds him for pushing too hard on the first day. Narrating over this memory, Leon elaborates that thanks to Sylvia stopping him at the right moment, his body is now becoming more flexible. He gazes upon the message window to tell that this magical status window is also quickening the growth. But this is not the right milestone for him, and he expresses that the Zygarde's training is infamous for its difficulty. He exclaims that just being a 3-star fire ring is not enough, and adds that he needs to have a good foundation to be able to build tall buildings and survive.
Of course.
He imagines himself as a commandant in the Zygarde family, as he continues to state that he will excel more than anyone else, so that all the guys who have mocked him will shut up. And then, he empathizes with the heavenly swordsman, Daruth Robert, determining that he will not rest easily until he has slain him. However, just then, our hero is snapped back into reality when a voice calls to him. He looks over to find Sylvia, his mom, calling to him and asking why he is still up. She sits across from him on his bed, and upon questioning by Leon about what she is doing up so late, she mentions that since he is going to the training hall tomorrow for training, she wanted to talk to him before he leaves. She gazes upon her child and questions, must he really go? She comes clean and reveals that she does not want him to go. She elaborates that Leon does not express when he is hurting, adding in concern that he might get injured or hurt badly. Persistent as she is, she exclaims that she actually wants him to go, but she cannot help the concern as she voices it and asks him to postpone his enrollment to next year. But Sylvia is taken aback when Leon blatantly refuses and denies this request made by his mom.
Yeah, he got objective.
And recalling all the bad and humiliating moments, he elaborates that he cannot stand it when everyone from the direct or indirect bloodlines, or even when the workers from their annex see her, their eyes fill up with disgust. He exclaims that he can't stand it at all. Sylvia is speechless at this digression, but Leon continues to comfort his mother as he elaborates that he believes that she will be treated better if he does well in training. Nevertheless, she smiles, and she fidgets and plays with her fingers before she nervously states that she is sure Leon had thought it was strange why they live separately, and why people talk badly about them. She recalls her memory to explain that she fell in love with his father coincidentally when she was on a mission, but it was difficult for her to be with him since he was just a knight. Then she narrates that she shut down her monocores and left the family. She also tells Leon that he actually has a sister named Sia, who is 10 years older than him. She recalls and tells that they were living peacefully when Eden's executive ambushed them, and amidst the battle, she expresses that Leon's father was not that powerful, and unfortunately, she was pregnant with him at the time. And somberly expressing, she tells that there was nothing they could do against them. However, she adds that his father had hired guards without her knowledge, but she regretfully informs that they arrived at the scene too late because by then, his father and sister were already dead. She concludes the story, elaborating that this is why she came back to the family.
Nigga, y'all just out here killing children and fathers? Like, what the fuck is wrong with y'all?
Knowing what to do and why the family treats them like sinners. Adding on, she tells him that she really could not say anything against it. Leon thinks about this whole situation and deems his mother selfish. Elaborating, he tells that she threw away her responsibilities in the name of love and came back crawling to be saved. He expresses that he now understands why the family treats her so coldly. However, emotions take over our hero, and he states that she is the one who gave him a new life and showed him affection for the first time. And he makes a point that even if everyone else calls her selfish, to him, she is the only mother he has had in both lives.
Yeah, I agree that she went too far. But, like, does she deserve to have her man and her daughter killed because of that? Like, she just fell in love, bro. Like, oh, you fell in love? Time to kill your husband and your daughter. Just what? It just escalate too far, man.
Leon then asks Sylvia if she regrets it, if she wants to go back to the time before she left the family, but she denies. And she explains that she used to feel invisible in the family before, but she felt like a real person when she finally left, and she expresses that it is enough for her, being happy then and being happy now. Continuing the heartfelt conversation, she apologizes to Leon for being such a terrible mother, but she is interrupted by Leon, who states it to be fine. He addresses his mother and tells her that he will be fine, so he asks her not to worry. Gazing into each other's eyes for a moment, Leon smiles at his mother while he reminds himself that even if everyone else calls her selfish, she is his only mother, and he can always get his revenge after he helps her regain her position in the family. Mumbling turns into slow tears, and slow tears turn into sobbing as Sylvia wails in front of Leon, surprising him. He asks her to stop crying, and this mother-son interaction ends here. Leon sees
That's
his mother
sweet.
out of his room as he sighs and expresses that reassuring her was really hard. He then sits on his bed once again as he plans to check the malleability of the Ring of Fire before he can sleep, mentioning that he does not have a lot of time before the training starts.
Yeah.
And he sits in a unique stance, performing the technique as blue flames rise and flare up in the room viciously. He notices that the rings spin faster now that they are at level 3, but he wonders what it will be like once they get to the intermediate levels. The flame suddenly blazes violently and bursts out into the air in front of our hero as his eyes widen in shock. The flames speak in a strange voice as it states to have finally come. It rises and rises as our hero glares in anticipation. A giant ball accumulates in front of him as it viciously smiles, and elaborates that the time has finally come when his rage has reached him. The blue flame pays his respects to Raph, the second lord of the demon realm, and expresses that he will help Leon's revenge dreams come true. However, Leon is surprised and taken aback as he questions this claim, and a message window pops up telling him that he has unlocked 2 new traits. The rage trait is being activated, but the second one remains untitled. The blue flame continues to rage and blaze as it expresses the offer to our hero, but it is taken aback in shock and stops midway to address the concern. The ball of blue flame questions why there is a child standing before him. Leon steps away to prepare to engage in battle against the mysterious ball of fire that has suddenly appeared in front of him, and he asks what it is. But the ball of fire seems to be just as confused, and he expresses the same concern to elaborate that the rage that reached him was not an emotion that a kid like Leon can feel. Upon a second glance, the ball of blue fire's eyes widen as the realization dawns upon him, and it exclaims that it was definitely the child standing before him. The child has been hiding a deep and dark rage within him. Leon hardens his facial expressions and is skeptical of the ball of fire as it asks him to give away his body and soul to him, and then he will help him get the revenge that he desires.
What?
He wonders if the ball of fire is here because of his violent rage against Dareth Robert before he was reborn. But if it is, he expresses that the ball of fire is way too late.
Yeah.
Following the skeptical nature and suspicion of the ball of fire, Leon denies his offer and states that he will get his revenge on his own. This confuses the ball, who anticipated an answer. He floats around Leon.
I summoned you all here for the 10th annual Hunger Games. There has been a change this year.
Leon's body, as Leon tells him that he will exact revenge on Dareth himself, thinking that he can't get the help of another in such a matter. But the ball of fire does not seem to buy this claim, as he expresses that Leon seems to be misunderstanding something. Smiling widely, the ball rises up once again and states that he is not here to negotiate. The huge ball of fire blazes again, and it viciously glares at our hero to alert him that he has already made his decision. Although the flames catch onto Leon's body, he immediately notices something strange. The flames are cold. Realizing this could only mean one thing, Leon steps back nervously. The ball of flame flares and rushes forward as it yells that now, all Leon needs to do is give him his body. Leon steps away from the threat as the blue ball of fire approaches him. The fire approaches nearer and nearer. There does not seem to be anything that our hero can do, and the flames finally reach Leon's body as a burst of light illuminates the room.
Come on, man.
Following the strange interaction, he does not seem to be feeling too well as he grabs hold of his chest firmly. His eyes widen in shock, and he expresses that he feels as if his mind is gonna freeze over. He wonders if it is the attribute of cold that is causing this strange and uncomfortable feeling. A mysterious and vicious avatar dawns over Leon, as its heavy voice instigates him to think of the person to bring up the rage, and he will kill him even if it is a god. Shivering and shaking, Leon rubs his hands over his arms, curling up into a ball as he expresses that he is able to endure the attack somewhat thanks to his water attribute tolerance ability, but he realizes that this attack is not just cold. Adding on, he elaborates that the mysterious entity is consistently stimulating his rage. Awful and torturous moments from his past life constantly replay in his head, as he is reminded of the pain he has endured and the days he has spent in torment. The mysterious man hollows over near to our hero's ear, as he exclaims that he will break the man's skull and eat up on his flesh, and so, Leon gives up on his body and lets the man take over. Recalling the joyful moments he has spent with the maids and his mother, Sylvia, he worries about what will happen to them if he gives up his body to this strange entity that has appeared so suddenly. He grits his teeth in frustration, determined to not let go so easily, and he exclaims that he cannot let him have his body no matter what happens. The blue ball of fire has once again appeared before our hero as it hovers over him and continues to persuade him by saying that it would have been easier for him to give in to his rage and accept the entity. But he is just holding on for no reason at all. He exclaims that he was going to minimize the damage since he was going to use his body, but our hero leaves him no choice. It expresses that it will just swallow Leon whole without waiting any further, and it seems like the situation is worsening. It's apparent by the look on Leon's face as he attempts to catch his breath, and he expresses that it feels like his body is going to break into pieces. Holding on to dear life, our hero expresses regret, realizing that he is almost at his limit and he'll end up dying at this rate if he does nothing at all to survive. But just then something clicks in Leon's head as his eyes widen and the realization dawns upon him. He grips his hands together and grits his teeth to give it his all, elaborating that if he could endure the cold due to his water tolerance attribute, then he might be able to reduce the pain in his body and mine through the ring of fire.
Okay.
Noticing it to be the only option he has left to survive, our hero musters up all his strength to counter the cold. And his move works as the heat from the ring of fire slowly pushes away the cold from Leon, surprising the ball of blue fire. He groans in frustration, seeing a child push away and counter his attack. He expresses that even if it hasn't been long since he has awakened, a feat like this is impossible. His annoyance is further elevated at the fact that the foe is just a human child. Sweat trickles down Leon's face as the cold slowly goes away and the heat of the ring of fire intensifies.
Okay.
He glares at the ball of fire and warns that he will get revenge on his own, without needing to let a ghost use his body. The blue ball of fire is offended by this statement as it rages and blazes violently at our hero. He questions how dare the human child call one of the great demon lords a ghost. Playfully teasing the entity, Leon asks why he hasn't been able to kill him if he is a lord of the demon realm.
Right.
He continues to tease and taunt the lord as he states that the lord of the demon realm isn't anything special, and he suggests that he just disappears. Infuriated at this insulting interaction, the ball of fire starts growling at Leon. Observing and recalling the demon lord's words, Leon realizes that he has said to have just awakened, which could possibly mean that the ball of a demon lord has yet to restore his full strength. Leon's deepening thoughts over the strange lord of the demon realm are broken off by a message from the system window that notifies him of special abilities that have been unlocked.
He's just unlocking
Gazing upon the message window in curiosity, he finds his stats to be shown in a number format. At this realization, the lord of the demon realm freaks out, yelling that it is his authority, and he questions why the little boy has it. Our hero asks if the blue ball of fire has anything to do with the sudden change in the format of the message window, and although the ball frowns at first, it affirms that he has made the system, and he annoyingly questions why it is with him. Feeding into his curiosity, Leon once again asks what kind...
So you about to take over this man's body, and you're the one that made the system? What?
kind of system it is, but the demon lord has no interest in revealing anything to him. But he finds himself immediately taken aback and dazed when Leon answers his own question to express that it might be for quicker progress. The blue ball of fire blazes in rage and confusion as he wonders how the little boy knows. Leon, on the other hand, blatantly glares at the spirit in front of him, concluding that he can't even hide his emotions at all. Contemplating over the mysterious workings of the system, our hero mentions that he too had thought it to be strange that his Ring of Fire ability was more effective than in his past life, but now he realizes that it was because of the system. Filled with rage and frustration, the spirit of the demon lord flares violently as he demands that the little boy gives up his authority and body to him. But just as he continues to press on our hero, he sees a powerful energy blow coming towards him, and he immediately dodges as the attack flows right through its hollow spiritual form. Enraged even more, he asks what the little boy is doing, and Leon gleefully expresses that he has hit him with mana just in case. Observing the outcome of the attack, he notices that the spirit of the demon lord does not have a physical body, which would mean that aura won't work on him either. And
listen, paying $14.99 a month for a streaming app, and $9.99 a month for a music app, and $12.99 for a fitness app, and more money for a bunch of other...
And considering the fact that no one else has come rushing in after the ruckus they have caused, it's apparent that he's probably the only one who can see or hear this spirit. Having enough of the little boy taunting and playing with him, the blue ball of fire is fed up and yells at Leon before flowing directly at his wrist. Leon's eyes widen as he flinches at the sudden hostile movement, but he is taken aback again when the blue ball of fire has now turned into a bracelet with ice crystals for beads. And even in the form of a mere bracelet, the Lord of the Demon Realm does not shy away from shit-talking. He exclaims that it hasn't been long since his seal has been undone, but his powers will return soon, and then no one will be able to stop him. He warns that he will stick with Leon till the day he dies. Our hero is nervous. He expresses the entity to be a leech, but he is afraid of the system going away if he tries to take him off, and he is also concerned about what he might do to Sylvia and Helen. But concluding the interaction, he glares at the bracelet once again, determining that it might be better to keep him close and watch him. He will just restrict him, and hope that he grows stronger fast enough before him. Bothered by the look of the bracelet, Leon asks why the spirit had to take the form of a floral bracelet, exclaiming that it does not look good on him. The spirit frowns and yells at Leon to respect his taste. And what can Leon even do at this point, which is why he just sighs.